everyone. First of all, I want to thank the organization for having me here. And then I really want to say that for me, it's a great occasion to be here this year because this year Italy celebrates its 40th centenary of Italian radio broadcasting. So, Italian radio theater history begins in 1937 with the French drama's adaptation, and the first original Italian radio drama aired in 1929. It was Loránd coming back to the country story. We see. Starting from the television theater consisted in different narrative genres with specific sound potentialities, such as detective stories, adventure radio dramas, often faced by the sea, by the mountain, or entertained so that the audience could try out different sounds and notes to create the atmosphere. As you can guess, Italian radio theater was, of course, inspired by the most sophisticated British and German tradition, audio drama tradition. Anyway, it wasn't popular yet among the public because audio quality was not sufficient to be appreciated, and also because a few people could afford radio devices. Usually the first original stories written for the radio were successful because they didn't have a proper radiophonic melody and the actors didn't use a radiophonic style. They were still influenced by the stage. So, I began. Both the audience and intellectuals started a debate about Italian radio drama failure, and many of them believed that the new kind of radio could start only for young people. As we can read, only young people make the radio network smarter and a vital tool for the time we are living in. This quote is taken by a letter that two young authors, Angelo Pratt and Riccardo Morbelli, wrote to Enrico Rocca, another important intellectual. So young authors wrote a quick letter to them. It's like we need young people. And meanwhile, the only Italian broadcaster ever was controlled, of course, by fascism, and it was enough of the fascist propaganda. So to spread the messages, the fascists realized the importance of entertainment, and so they are open to young authors. In the 1930s, Italian radio theater began to develop. More intimate other dramas were made. Also fantasy and comedy stories were appreciated. For example, it was a university that I could create out this channel in which a man found himself overwhelmed by different voices that represent its discourses. So the radio drama created a sophisticated sound effect. And the radio theater was finding its individuality. Writers understood how to use the imagination in the radio. And furthermore, two new radio genres were born, radio review and radio films. The first one, radio review, was created by two young authors. So, it was created by Angelo and Riccardo Morbelli, the authors we talked about, and at the time they were domestic students. The genre review for the theater was made up of a scope with actors, dress, dancer, and singer, dancer, and dancer that you can see in the picture. So, in Morbelli and Riccardo was the idea of recreating something similar but with the radio. The first attempts were a failure, but they on the recovery of Alfredo before its death in 1942. In 1944, the occasion became really popular because the regular how many family pictures, many references to literature, many characters from different stories to make together in that fantastic dimension. The protagonist is corresponded to the vision of popular Italian science, he adapted for the general plot. So the film itself became the first author media in the video. The experiment was also the first Italian vegetarian, and furthermore, it was a huge radio marketing campaign because it was financed by the Butoni and by Loránd, which paid for the realization of it, and it also launched a really famous collection of stickers for children. And people in Italy to remember this Sahara Christian, and it was also famous. Because they also had a movie on it in 1956, but the saga is also mentioned in other Italian movies. And they were also they were short stories, but they were popular because they were fun, entertaining, and the kids had a proper language for the radio. Indeed, the audience after we have the scene were not so different by established radio, but they weren't like to examine and they had no artistic concept. And the main characteristics of these new genres were their authors, because they were the new generation of radio authors that everybody was looking for. But unfortunately, because of the young authors, this is very important to their answer. I mean, somebody thinking and this is quite a paradox. Also, that is the optical area in modern women separated them by established agencies as you can see with the organizzati trova the established theater and in another part variety and the musicale. Anyway, I like to read a new foundation for them. The execution method of reviews and operators will have new inputs from the research committee of Czechoslovak teaching and Roman and Enduring, through areas for training and economic. A study new sketches and systematic phase of only one act. This is a quote from from the beginning of 1941 article in Revolution. All the others of the companies came from typical magazines. They were economists. And one television asked the contribution of the other journalists, because they were the first authors of reviews and discussion. In fact, as a support all over the world, satirical magazines were modernized in the language and the humor of the 20th century. As we know, Canada has entered enough media with revolutionary communication and the languages. So young people knew the new material languages. Among these digital technological projects was the micro radio, in which our actor Federico Fellini worked as a driver. Even though fascism achieved many technical journals, of course, Macedonia was less successful, and for a short time it was even translated in German. Yes, the first one needs to be because Marco Aurelio, was the only Italian journal magazine of the time that had been translated in German and printed for German people. So Marco Aurelio's stories and caricatures were becoming as sharp language, and sometimes emotionally realistic. Even if it would never let fascism, the paper of people's habits and circumstances, so managing what was possible because also its own redress. Again, that it's important to encourage the video and let it this is Federico Fellini cartoon. Yes, I think the question that lucky is because the people have it bigger. And about Federico Fellini, someone who is dedicated to Federico Fellini by faith, Combattimento Fellini began collaboration with the player in 1940 with the Radical Chiavetto Rivoluzionario Provenendo Adventist. The father was working by the side of the Institute, of course, and the Fellini's father was not as successful as them, and we don't know why. Then, after the renewal of the theater church of the state from the beginning of 1941, Fellini constantly wrote with the script up to 1968 when Loránd entered a year in Rome. It was about 80 Swedish scripts, and the first half of them he wrote them in collaboration with German Kelly, who became one of the greatest writers of the British cinema. He was with Nicola a lot. And these are some titles I will mention. Registering in the individual review in red. We can see that the word good with the reviews and publications is, but since 1922, something often caused melancholic stories to be good messages appeared. They were longer and more difficult. Anyway, Federico Fellini never considered Federico Fellini to be replaced as established radio theater. They were always called radio films. So, why? Because they were considered, even if they had different messages, they were considered American. Because Federico Fellini was 20 years old at the time he was a young soloist. And the radio plays were considered as a simple fascism. And I would like to explain that what I'm talking about with the analysis of the one of Fellini's last film. In the story, we translated in the first, and in the area of the 19th of June 1943. The story is about a sad and cabaret dancer who is waiting for a train in her country. And one singer, a weirder man, gets closer to her and takes her to see a strange statue in nearby. The man explains her that it is dedicated to Symposium, one of his ancestors who made the greatest invention in human history. Symposium was a primitive man, he and his client lived in things in case always frightened by wild beasts. So he and his assistant put themselves in a deep cave one day to find out a way to escape from here. In those days, a mysterious woman appeared to them when they were asleep. She looked like a goddess. At the beginning, the human couldn't hear well, but night after night, the image gets clearer. The woman's name was Gaia, as the ancient Greek goddess of the earth. But Cronus was the dream. The dream was the maker, the dream was the greatest discovery. And after the story, the person comes back to the company and the dreams of a better life. And I think this story is really important, both because it is the conversation of people and it really was in ancient times, and because it really anticipated many important things that Fellini put in his cinema later on. So we can see a quote of the last part of the scene, maybe in the center of the giurisdizione and the time of the time, beginning in the journal, found the name of a wonderful lady, the cittadino in the of the Jews. So, in it, Fellini actually started to represent those things after the 60s, where the American neurologist after being transferred again, popularity that the director began to grow into a book of dreams and to put its face and only things in space, such as cases of a house or students of the series. And also the interest for limited time and uncertainty return from cinema. For example, in Rome or in feminist TV club. And of course, feminist cinema is always used in the Sapienza University. The women are often in feminist cinema of Jews or actresses or almost mysteries. Let's think about Sapienza University, Juliet Objectives, again, Casanova, and of course, City of Women. Fellini said again, looking that for him, women were the order that side of the men. So he really believed that women were mysteries. But there is also a freedom who is magical to find the freedom here in Budapest because these feelings are not so famous nowadays and we don't even have any original recording of the time and only a few of them were recorded later on a program broadcasting after today's video was dead. Also, it's really interesting for me to find that Fellini meditations were translated and adapted by the Hungarian radio. In fact, they were submitted in the 2000s by the Italian Cultural Institute in Hungary. They were recorded by Loránd, who translated and recorded them with the collaboration of Humanities and by the way, if someone knows something about them, let me know because maybe they may take you into it. And among these three races, in 2001, they played The Great Discovery, which I think it was the American translation of industry. So I think there is a Hungarian version of industry somewhere. And of course, you find it interesting to see this evaluation of history and the group analysis of the history. That can show how the radio theater in Italy before the Second World was a complicated manner, but it was developing in mass thanks to young authors. It became popular in the